Hello and welcome to Fight Network Boxing versus MMA Weekly. Corey Erdman and Morgan Campbell here with you. Go ahead and ring the bell, Morgan. We would love to be able to talk to you about the pair of heavyweight title fights that are happening on Showtime. And we will talk about that a little bit later on. But unfortunately, we continue to be avalanched by coverage of this back and forth between Floyd Mayweather and UFC champion Conor McGregor. And we continue to be avalanched by the morons who take part in said discussion. So we're going to go ahead and entertain it for as long as we are still entertained by it ourselves.
Well, two things. Because certain people that we know are going to show up in the YouTube comments, we kind of have to address. So, Irish people were slaves too. That guy's going to show up that man or woman's going to show up.
Yeah, he's already typing.
He's going to show up in the YouTube comments. So, to that guy, Irish Americans were never slaves in America. Stop. Stop. History does not support your assertion. There are plenty of white indentured servants, but indentured servitude is not slavery. I don't know why you guys can't understand the difference between a 5-year contract and a life sentence. But they're two completely different things. So there's that guy. Who else is going to show up in the YouTube comments?
Well, we're going to have the Conor McGregor makes a whole lot of money, and he's going to make more money than Floyd Mayweather.
Yes.
He's going to show up.
We'll get to that guy in a second. This is Conor McGregor fan math. It's just like the meme that says, you know, if we divided the Powerball jackpot between 300 million Americans, we'd all have $4.33 million, which we would not. We'll get to that in a minute. Then there's also Conor McGregor would beat Floyd Mayweather in a boxing match because McGregor is bigger and has footwork like Floyd Mayweather has never seen. No.
Nope.
Just no. McGregor is as likely to beat Floyd Mayweather in a boxing match as Floyd Mayweather is to beat Conor McGregor in an MMA fight. No.
Yeah,
no.
Neither are going to happen.
It's not
neither
happen.
are going to happen.
It's not going to happen.
And whatever footwork McGregor has, it doesn't all the way apply to boxing because he can't kick or jump on someone in the boxing ring.
Right.
All these things don't take place in the squared circle. Sorry.
Right. So now that we've got that out of the way, we have, let's get back to what these people were saying.
Yeah,
right?
okay. So last week, we talked about Floyd Mayweather's interview with his personal megaphone.
Like I said before
on FightHype.com. Gave an interview where he spoke about racism still existing in boxing.
Yes.
Which is a very correct assessment because it exists everywhere.
Yes.
And boxing is not removed from that, just as nothing is removed from that. Granted, Floyd did use some examples that maybe weren't the best, and you could pick apart certain things, but his overall point that racism exists in boxing, which is the only thing we were arguing about last week, is correct.
Yes, the racism and that fighters are marketed and perceived. Fighters are marketed and their actions are perceived differently depending on the race or ethnicity of the boxer. Now, hold on. You understand that all of us are sitting here analyzing a debate on race between a boxer and a mixed martial artist, which is kind of like us sitting down to watch a prize fight between Michael Eric Dyson and Jonathan Chait. You see what I'm saying?
And picking apart their athletic prowess and technical ability.
Because no one ever accused Floyd Mayweather of being a history professor. Same with Conor McGregor. And given their backgrounds and their levels of education on this particular topic, their takes, they paint with the broadest of brushes, and their takes are flaming hot. Because here's Conor McGregor on Instagram firing back at Floyd Mayweather, saying, Mayweather, don't ever bring race into my success because the Irish were oppressed too. There was a point when having the name McGregor was punishable by death. Now, Conor McGregor doesn't specify whether that having the name McGregor was punishable by death because of racial or ethnic tension, or because of like some interclan rivalry.
Right. Yeah, we don't know why.
Right.
Yeah.
Either way, Mayweather wasn't arguing, and no one's going to argue that Irish people haven't been oppressed by the English throughout history. But I don't know that Mayweather's knowledge of history in that part of the world is deep enough for him to even comment on that.
No, exactly.
Right?
And he didn't.
And there's one thing. It's one thing to have withstood, to have endured oppression at the hands of the English in England and in Ireland. Something completely different to come to the United States and have access to white privilege.
Right, and no one is arguing that. The Irish weren't oppressed to a certain degree when they came to the United States.
Yes.
No one's arguing that either. But I did a segment yesterday with Robin Black where and you and I have read the John L. Sullivan biography.
Yes.
And you read about his struggles when he first comes to Massachusetts and everything that the Irish people went through when they came there.
Yes.
I mentioned that. And then people came out and said,
Listen,
you don't understand. How dare you say that the Irish weren't oppressed?
Even if, yes, and it's a point of historical fact that when Irish immigrants came to the United States, they endured discrimination, but not the same level of discrimination that Black Americans endured. First of all, and a lot of that, and guys, if you want to read books, all this information is in books. Like if you want to, if you're going to rely on Conor McGregor and Floyd Mayweather for all your facts and knowledge and understanding of the history of race relations in the United States, well, then you're never going to learn a lot. There's a book called The History of White People that I read, Nellie Painter Irvin, where it talks about how white Americans have just constructed this race out of all these different ethnicities. And it talks about Irish people, where they fit in America's, socioeconomic hierarchy depended a lot on when they came to the United States, which part of the United States they came to, whether they were Catholic or whether they were Protestant. And so, they didn't come to the United States and immediately become accepted as part of the white mainstream. But at the same time, they knew that they outranked Black people.
Right.
I have Kennedys in my family, last name Kennedy. Black people with his Irish last name, why? Because when Irish people came to the United States, maybe they weren't accepted immediately into the white mainstream, but their white skin did give them access to the American dream. And part of the American dream is ownership of property. And part of the property you could own back then was human beings. So you could buy people and give them your last name. Boom, here you are, Kennedy. But again, Floyd Mayweather and Conor McGregor aren't arguing any of this.
No.
Because they've never read any. If Conor McGregor has read The History of White People by Nellie Painter Irvin, I'll wear a Conor McGregor T-shirt here next week.
Yeah, none of that has anything to do with any privilege to whatever degree Conor has enjoyed by virtue of being white either.
Yes.
Because it is, and I said this yesterday also, it is extremely difficult to be the good guy black fighter.
Yes.
And I was straining trying to think of examples of guys who were popular, who became superstars doing that. And I came up with Sugar Ray Leonard, Evander Holyfield. And like you kind of get stuck after. I'm sure there are some other examples. Maybe some will pop up in the YouTube comments as well. But it's extremely difficult. But it's not that difficult to be the bad boy white guy.
Yes. Well, yeah, you can be a white anti-hero, whereas the black guy, so the white guy, like Steve Austin,
right,
you can become the good guy just by being the bad guy.
Right. Yeah.
Whereas the black guy, if you're Mayweather, you just got to be the bad guy, right? And there's
which is more or less what this debate was actually about.
Well, right. So Mayweather is not wrong about that. McGregor in his comments, for whatever reason, doesn't address that. And it's part of privilege. Part of being privileged is not recognizing or acknowledging your privilege and getting angry at the people who point it out. But look, listen, we're all privileged. We live in North America, right? We have advantages being born in North America that we wouldn't have if we were born in, say, Venezuela, where we have to pay a month's salary to get a roll of toilet paper. That's a privilege we have. We didn't ask for it just by virtue of being born here. So let's accept it and recognize it. And again, part of privilege is taking offense when someone points out your privilege. If a Venezuelan says to me, "Man, you have it easy up there in North America because it's easy because you don't have to pay $100 to go to McDonald's," I'm not going to get mad at him and say, "Hey, wait a minute, I'm not privileged."
I have to walk in the snow to get to the studio today.
Right?
How dare you?
So just recognize your privilege. And it does. what really stands out to me too, because again, this is a boxing show, is the extent to which the UFC on the one hand wants to market itself as being better than boxing, but on the other hand, looks for any opportunity to either use boxing or boxers as a platform or a stepping stone, or to co-opt boxing in an effort to market itself. This is why you have Conor McGregor saying, well, I'm in charge of this game now. Well, if you're in charge of this game now, that's a comment you should direct at maybe George St. Pierre or Anderson Silva, because you're taking over that game from them. You're not taking over any game from Floyd Mayweather, because you guys are in different sports. It's like, this would be like Bryce Harper telling Peyton Manning, well, this is my game now.
You're on your way out, bucko.
Right.
I'm the superstar in this town.
Right.
We'll get into a little bit more about this, because this did stem a little bit further into the business side of things, which got even more humorous. Okay. So we'll keep talking about this. We'll be back on the other side of the break. Welcome back to Fight Network Boxing Weekly. Corey Erdman and Morgan Campbell here with you as we break down Floyd Mayweather versus Conor McGregor. Apparently the next super fight, but the current super fight on social media as it is. There's going to be some other people in social media, by the way.
Yes.
Other people in the YouTube comments, excuse me. You mentioned
they've been on social media
a couple of tropes that have come out. The other one will be the people who say, no, we don't hate Floyd Mayweather because he's black. We hate him because he hits women.
Yes.
Which, if you really cared about that, you would hate a whole host of fighters in both boxing and MMA.
Yes.
So I'm not going to listen to that either. I also want to
hate Floyd Mayweather because he hits women, but I'm going to watch this Travis Brown, Mike Mitrione fight this weekend.
Yeah. I really love James Kirkland.
Right.
Or anyone, pick any number of fighters. But, this is where people get lost in these arguments, too, is defending Floyd is not an endorsement of the battery of women. Me saying that Floyd is right about existing racism does not mean that I endorse anything about Floyd Mayweather. Floyd Mayweather did hit women. I don't endorse hitting women.
Right.
That isn't all that difficult to understand, just as you can dislike any number of people, but agree with certain factual things that have come out of their mouth.
Well, yes, but because Floyd Mayweather's become such a villain, and again, so much of it is based on stuff he actually did. So, he has to live with that.
Yeah.
But at the same time now, we have to disagree with everything he says, no matter what it is. And the thing is, you don't have to make up stuff to disagree with Floyd Mayweather about, because if you wait long enough, Floyd Mayweather will say something stupid. He will say something that's wrong. So you don't have to jump on the stuff that he's right about and pretend that it's wrong. Just wait 10 minutes. Next interview with Fight Hype, he'll say something that's demonstrably wrong, and there you go.
Well, and that's what we were saying too, because we even pointed out, that crazy list of fighters that he didn't actually rattle off. You could have pointed to that. You could have pointed to, because he used Andre Ward as an example too, and you could say, okay, maybe the reason that Andre Ward hasn't been in the ring is because he's had a friggin' lawsuit.
Yes.
And Andre Ward just hasn't been in the ring very long. He's had a couple injuries. And you could pluck at that argument.
Also, Floyd Mayweather is a boxing promoter, and what every boxing promoter does, just like what Oscar De La Hoya does and Bob Arum does, is when you talk about fighters, whether you talk well about fighters or speak poorly of other fighters, you do it in a way that reflects well on your business. Because the whole subtext of the Andre Ward should be bigger rant that Mayweather went on was that if Andre Ward was doing business with Floyd Mayweather, he would be bigger. That's the subtext
exactly,
of all of it.
What are you doing with Jay-Z?
Yeah.
Come on over here.
Exactly. Yeah. It's not just that Andre Ward would be bigger. It's that Andre Ward would be bigger if he had a different promoter. Me.
These are also shots at HBO, too.
Yes.
Right? Because he is very much an HBO guy, he's an HBO fighter, he's an HBO broadcaster.
Right.
And he's saying, well, look what this network isn't doing for you. If you were on this side of the promotional divide, you'd be fighting all the time. You'd be a superstar like me.
Well, exactly. And so, is that stuff true? Maybe, but you just have to, possibly not. I don't know. Maybe Floyd Mayweather could turn Andre Ward into a bigger star. Maybe you couldn't. But you do have to interpret his comments in the context of him being a boxing promoter. And boxing promoters always say self-aggrandizing stuff because that's what they do.
People can't, when Floyd says anything, people can't they lose their minds
Yes.
and they lose their sensibilities about things that otherwise they would be reasonable people about. Remember when Floyd, when that audio clip leaked of Floyd struggling to read a promo at a radio station, and then it came out that Floyd is illiterate, and there was that thing with 50 Cent. You would never make fun of illiteracy about anyone else, because illiteracy it's a tragedy.
Yes.
It's a failure of the educational system in your country. People feel bad about these things, and making fun of someone for being illiterate online is saying to anyone out there who's struggling with that, with any sort of disability, learning disability, that's saying that they are lesser than.
Yes.
You can't say those things.
And saying, you know what, continue to hide it, because don't come out and admit it to get help.
Right.
Because we will shame you.
That's right.
We will shame you.
And people know this is wrong. This is going to be my first Making a Murderer reference here, because that's cool.
I still haven't seen it.
Still haven't seen it. But if you're out there watching it, you know that it's tugging at your heartstrings when you're watching Brendan Dassey being interrogated and he doesn't understand what's going on.
Right.
You understand that that's not something to laugh about. But when Floyd Mayweather is out here struggling to read, you think is real funny to pop illiteracy jokes on Twitter.
It is another point of fact that Floyd Mayweather knows how to read, because he found his ex-girlfriend's medical documents. Right?
That's right.
Posted them on Facebook.
Right.
He knew what all that stuff meant. He knows how to read.
Right.
It is a point of fact.
Yep.
So if you want to attack him on that.
Yeah, please.
Because that's
you should
legally actionable. That's illegal. You cannot do that.
You can't do that.
Right? So he knows how to read. But for whatever reason, people think it's more fun to make fun of him for allegedly not being able to read, even though the proof that he knows how to read is manifest in his choice, his decision to find his ex-girlfriend's medical documents. Tell you what they all meant. He put it into English, right? Like, here's what it all means. Posted, and he's not sitting here, in his living room telling someone else to do that. This is what he's doing.
What does this mean?
Right. He translated it for you, puts it in plain English, so the man knows how to read, and if not how to write, at the very least how to type. His thumbs work. He knows how to work a keyboard. But instead of attacking him on that, people find it for whatever reason, people find it acceptable to attack the idea. Not even to attack it, but to ridicule it. Because no one said, hey, man, go get help, go learn how to read, right? Or no one said, hey, you're a famous person who can't read. Maybe you can help lead the charge against illiteracy. They're like, no, ha, 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 it's funny.
Yeah, illiteracy is funny.
We think you can't read.
Right. Muhammad Ali was functionally illiterate at one point, by the way. He eventually learned how to read.
Muhammad Ali, or the Irish Muhammad Ali.
Right. Well, when it comes to the Irish Muhammad Ali, Floyd is not illiterate, but I know some people out there who can't do math.
Who are innumerate.
Yes, innumerate.
Yes.
We can.
Are we doing this on this side of the break or the next side of the break?
How many minutes do we have left? We only have 1 minute left. We're going to have to do this on the other side of the break, because I think this requires a good 7 or 8 minutes.
Yes.
But the people sending the Powerball meme out there can't count. Might need an abacus. And apparently so do some Conor McGregor fans out there who think...
Well, it's Conor McGregor fans now, and 5 years ago it was George St. Pierre fans.
Yes.
When they would tell me that George St. Pierre makes as much money as Manny Pacquiao and Floyd Mayweather. And I would say, guys, the purses are all public. They file the purses with the state or provincial athletic commission. You can see how much they're getting paid.
Yep. Yeah, it's not a mystery.
And from there, it's a matter of arithmetic.
That's when they disappear, though.
Yes.
That's when the argument ends. This discussion doesn't end, though. We're going to talk about this. We'll be right back after the break here on Fight Network Boxing Weekly. Welcome back to Fight Network Boxing Weekly. Corey Erdman and Morgan Campbell here with you. All right, so for Conor McGregor's last fight against Jose Aldo, he made $500,000 was his purse. Now, we don't know what cut of other things he had when it comes to the pay-per-view and the gate and whatnot, but I do know that he gave an interview with GQ after the Aldo fight, and he said, in my new contract, I'm getting a cut of pay-per-view sales and of gate revenue and whatnot.
Right.
Suggesting that either he didn't have that before or didn't have very much of it.
Yes.
Yet people are in the comments section, are in our mentions on Twitter, or everywhere.
Parachuting into my mentions.
Just dropping out of nowhere, telling us that he is going to make more money than Floyd Mayweather throughout his career.
Look, I don't know how much more plainly I can put this, but 500,000 is not more than 32 million. So it's not more than 40 million. So it's not more than, what did Mayweather make for the Pacquiao fight? At least 200 million. So it's not more than any of those. Guys, it's not. It's not. It is not. So the other thing that happens is people will tell me, well, you're not factoring in pay-per-view revenue. And again, now we know reading this GQ interview that pay-per-view revenue up to this point hasn't been a huge factor.
Yeah.
Conor McGregor says it, unless you're calling Conor McGregor a liar. I don't think he's necessarily lying about this. Well, you guys aren't taking into account pay-per-view revenue. With pay-per-view revenue, he made between $7 and $8 million in his last fight. Okay. But 7 and 8, anywhere between 7 and 8 is still not 30. So it's not 40. It's not 100. So one guy he was persistent. He was dogged. He said, well, Conor McGregor could make $20 million in his fight soon. And that was when I said...
Overall or in his purse?
Well, it's never in the purse.
It doesn't matter.
UFC, because, you see these UFC fights.
Of course.
The guarantee that's published is always, for a headliner, mid six figures.
Yeah.
And then whatever comes after that, because the UFC's not taking the risk. Right? UFC's not going to guarantee you $20 million. No, the UFC will guarantee you $500,000. And then whatever comes after that is up to you and up to your ability to help sell this fight, which is why, these well-timed Instagram posts. And again, the best thing Floyd Mayweather did, best thing that happened to Conor McGregor in his paychecks is that Floyd Mayweather mentioned his name and opened the door for Conor McGregor to fire back at Floyd Mayweather and start this ongoing dialogue, which again will come to include which of these two guys will win in a boxing match. Mayweather, period.
Yeah. Which
of them would win in an MMA fight, the MMA fighter, duh. And which of them makes more money? Because again, when I pointed out that McGregor was not very subtle about making his pitch for a Mayweather fight because he could use the cash, then the MMA fans said, well, no, he doesn't need the money. He made $7 million in his last fight. But just because you made a bunch of money doesn't mean you don't want more. Otherwise, he would just retire
Everyone
right now.
would retire after their first $1 million payday. They would just say that's enough.
Everyone wants more.
That's enough.
So now in the space of 3 tweets, this one guy went from having McGregor make $8 million in the space of 3 tweets. He had McGregor making $100 million because somewhere Lorenzo Fertitta had said Conor McGregor will make $100 million. And they didn't specify whether that was over the course of his career or in one fight. But the mechanisms by which a fighter can make $100 million in a fight don't exist for McGregor. One,
he's not his own promoter.
He's not his own promoter. And this is what you can't get people to understand, right? Part of the reason Mayweather made so much money in each fight was that he got paid on the front end and the back end, right?
You got paid when you bought a hot dog.
Right.
Concession stand sales went to Floyd.
Now, if McGregor's agent is smart, maybe they negotiated all that into his contract. But at the same time, to put this in terms of an MMA fan, because I know some of you guys are watching angrily, shaking your fists at us, understand, Conor McGregor is Conor McGregor. But when he fights Dana White, Lorenzo Fertitta, all those guys have to get paid too. Mayweather gets the Mayweather money, but he's also Dana White, Lorenzo Fertitta, Frank Fertitta.
Right.
He gets their cut too, which is why he makes this much money. And the other thing Mayweather had, especially in the back half of his career, is that he had a foil. He had Pacquiao on the other side of the ledger. And these guys used each other to drive each other's market value up. Conor McGregor doesn't have that, mainly because the UFC is marketing him as this singular, indestructible force. Cool, but there's only so much money you can make until you have to start selling the idea that someone might beat you, because people aren't going to tune in just to watch a virtuoso. That's why people would feel disappointed after Mayweather fights, because he would just outclass his competition by such a wide margin. Now, the UFC could do this. There's a young man named Aljamain Sterling who's left the UFC. He's taking his talents onto the free agent market. Undefeated fighter, same weight class as Conor McGregor, but the UFC insists on lowballing him. They're guaranteeing him $12,000 a fight. Undefeated fighter, top 5 featherweight, $12,000 to show up, another $12,000 to win. He says, hey, look, I need a raise. So they say, oh, okay, we'll offer you $24,000 to show up, $24,000 to win. Meantime, what's the kid's name from Texas with the blonde hair?
Oh, Sage Northcutt?
Sage Northcutt
right, yeah.
hasn't accomplished as much. He's getting 40 to show up, 40 to win. So Aljamain Sterling says, well, if you're not going to pay me properly, I'm not going to fight these world beaters. I'm going to go for that little money. I'm going to go fight easier guys in another organization.
Get my own sponsorship.
Right, until you guys are ready to pay me. Now, McGregor, Northcutt, white guys. Aljamain Sterling is a black guy. Now, this isn't to say the UFC is being racist. What the UFC is doing is putting its money behind the fighters it feels are more marketable. Now, does race play a role in Aljamain Sterling's marketability? Among MMA fans, I wouldn't say that it doesn't. I would not say that it doesn't. Who's the most popular black UFC fighter, black American UFC fighter? Rampage Jackson?
Right.
Right? And when you think about how UFC fights, brief history of ethnocentric UFC marketing. Remember they had Cain Velasquez, and they marketed him relentlessly as the first Mexican heavyweight champion in the history of...
Fighting.
In the history of fighting.
Yeah, right.
In the history of fighting, again, because they need to co-opt boxing's history and boxing's legacy to prop their own sport up. Fine. And then there's Conor McGregor, the Irish Muhammad Ali. Again, co-opting boxing, the Irish Muhammad Ali. Another point of fact for the MMA fans, Muhammad Ali's great-grandfather, William Clay, was from Ireland. So that would make him the Irish Muhammad Ali.
Right, yeah.
And again, comes to the United States, owns slaves, which is how he becomes Muhammad Ali's great-grandfather. This is not like the loving paternalistic figure. This is a guy who owned human beings, owned women, raped women, impregnated them, and said, well, hey, look, more property for me to own. Point is, they market Conor McGregor as the Irish Muhammad Ali, market him to fans in Boston because you have this really big Irish ethnic enclave there. But when it comes to marketing black fighters on an ethnic basis, what do you have in the UFC? You had Rashad Evans and Rampage Jackson and the black on black crime promo. That was one foray into marketing black fighters on an ethnic basis. So this is kind of the evidence we have, that we have to use to assess whether or not race plays a role in the perceived marketability of Aljamain Sterling versus, other young white guys. What does this have to do with boxing? Well, again, when it comes to fighters not named Floyd Mayweather or not named Manny Pacquiao making $100 million in one night, what you need is what Mayweather and Pacquiao had, was a foil and a long run-up to this fight. Give it time to ripen. Don't screw it up like Bob Arum did with... what's the fight he won?
Gamboa and Lopez.
With Gamboa
The thing
and
is that would
Lopez.
never happen because the brand of UFC is bigger than everyone under its umbrella.
that
And
is
it's
the
always
other
going to be
thing.
the case. That's why it makes so much money. Dana's not stupid.
No, because they know enough about the history of boxing and the history of the boxing business. Because remember, these guys were boxing guys first.
Yep.
That they're not going to pay any one fighter enough money to allow him to leave them and go into business against them. They're not trying to create Oscar De La Hoyas. They're not trying to create Floyd Mayweathers. Why would they do that?
Yeah.
Why would they give Conor McGregor $100 million and the next thing he says is, you know what? Thanks, guys, I'm leaving. And you know what? Because I'm this famous and because I'm this rich, I have a bunch of backers, and I'm going to leave the UFC, and all the Aljamain Sterlings that you're paying 12 and 12, I'm going to pay them 50 and 50. Bye. He's not doing that. And Dana White, Lorenzo Fertitta, Frank Fertitta, it's not in their interest to allow that. So
it's never happened before. Why would they start now?
They're not going to let a fighter shatter the glass ceiling. They'll just keep raising the ceiling. But they're going to keep that ceiling in place.
All right, on the other side of the break, we're going to talk about actual boxing fights that are actually going to happen. A pair of heavyweight title fights.
Conor McGregor and T.J. Dillashaw?
That's right.
Great strikers.
A pair of heavyweight title fights in Brooklyn. The first heavyweight title fight in Brooklyn in 115 years.
Jeez.
All the firsts.
Yes.
We'll talk about that when we return here on Fight Network Boxing Weekly. Welcome back to Fight Network Boxing Weekly. Corey Erdman and Morgan Campbell here with you. All right, we're going to get to actual full-on boxing talk now because we have a pair of title fights, heavyweight title fights at the Barclays Center in Brooklyn this Saturday, which will be live on Showtime. Deontay Wilder in the main event defending his WBC strap against Artur Szpilka. Now, the odds would say that this is another walkover for Deontay Wilder.
Yes.
I think it's a little bit of a better fight than the odds would suggest. And that is kind of what makes this fight and the heavyweight division and Wilder, all these things at the same time, it's kind of what makes them a lot of fun right now because there's that sense of vulnerability with Wilder and kind of with everyone who's at the top of the heavyweight division right now. Like, if you think about matchups that could be made with Wilder, with Szpilka, with Tyson Fury, who's a lineal champion, obviously, with the returning David Haye, who comes back this weekend, with Anthony Joshua, Luis Ortiz, all these guys, Alexander Povetkin, there's at least one question mark about all of those guys, but any combination of those guys probably makes for a fun fight, or at least an intriguing one on paper.
And again, this is what boxing fans, like hardcore fans said they wanted, but also casual fans. They said, well, the heavyweight division is boring because it's just these big guys from Russia, the Ukraine, dominating everyone. But what you have now that Klitschko's been defeated is that you have this opening up of the division, and all these fighters, each of them with strengths, each of them with weaknesses that sometimes make them compelling, facing off. It's like having not quite a tournament because it doesn't seem to be all that well organized, but there are a series of intriguing fights that can be made. It almost feels like the 80s. A series of intriguing fights that can be made, that are worth watching. Should Wilder dominate Szpilka? Yes. Will he? I don't know.
We've seen him struggle with guys that are not as good as Artur Szpilka.
Yes.
Now, granted, we've seen Szpilka kind of get beaten up a little bit, especially in the second half of the fight against Bryant Jennings. But Szpilka is still a guy who will push the tempo.
Yep.
He's in very good shape. He's a little bit undersized for a heavyweight, but wants to get in the space where maybe Deontay Wilder isn't particularly comfortable. And he's also cool with getting involved in a crazy brawl.
Yes.
And so is Wilder. And that's where Wilder can get caught because we have seen, we talked about, we referenced Wilder's vulnerability.
Yes.
That lies in his chin. And while he hasn't been knocked out or anything like that, he was stopped as an amateur, and we have seen him hurt several times, especially when he stepped up. So there absolutely is that possibility that Szpilka can catch him at any moment.
Well, right, and I don't remember when we've last seen Wilder against a southpaw, which sometimes plays a factor, sometimes doesn't. Remember, we just finished talking about Mayweather, and that was the rap on him, right? He struggles against southpaws, based on 2 rounds, 3 rounds against Zab Judah.
This is the best southpaw he's ever faced. We can say that.
Well, right. So again, it's just one more variable that keeps us from being, a walkover, and keeps it from becoming one more main event in which the outcome is all but predetermined. Now, is Wilder supposed to win? Of course, Wilder's supposed to win. But there are, several caveats.
This is clearly, from a marketing standpoint, I don't like to use the term like coming out party or anything like that, but this is a very concerted effort on the promotional side to try to push Wilder over the top for 2 reasons. Number one, they know that he can draw in Alabama. He can fill venues in the South. He has a real fan base there. It's not something that a lot of fighters at the top level can boast. Not too many fighters with world championships have a groundswell of support where they come from.
Right.
Because by and large, they've been taken out of that place early.
He's the Bud Crawford of the South.
Exactly. Yeah, right. So to bring him to Brooklyn, to put him on the big stage there, a boxing-hungry market that typically draws well. We'll see how he does there. But cleverly as well, this fight will also coincide with a free preview from Showtime. So you will see the ratings get a little bit of an artificial boost as well. And afterwards, whatever happens, they can say, hey, look at how well Deontay Wilder drew in this fight. Right. This means he's a real star.
Yes. And again, the free preview does inflate the numbers. What I'm trying to figure out, is the extent to which boxing has become a regional sport in the United States. Again, not a dead sport, because if it was a dead sport, you and I wouldn't be here. And as we mentioned last week, Latin Americans, Latinos from various countries that live in the United States still consume hours and hours and hours and hours of boxing. But I am curious to see, because we're also going to see it at the end of next month with Bud Crawford, where they take him out of Omaha and send him to, where's this fight?
MSG.
To Madison Square Garden. Thank you. Can these guys who have been regional attractions, world champions, regional attractions, draw in New York, which is like a proxy for the entire country, right? New York is still New York. It's one city. But if you're famous in New York, by extension, you're famous everywhere. And there you go. Because we don't know how, fighters that draw well in Texas or draw well in California at these Home Depot Center, not StubHub Center shows, how they would draw if you took them out of the West Coast or the Southwest and sent them to New York. Because Southwest, you're still regional. West Coast, you're regional. But if you can draw in New York, you can draw anywhere. And this is one of these questions, along with Wilder's chin, that we still need to answer.
We'll get into a little bit more about this fight and the heavyweight division in general. We didn't talk about the co-feature as well between Charles Martin and Vyacheslav Glazkov. We'll touch on that. We'll be right back with more here on Fight Network Boxing Week. Welcome back to Fight Network Boxing Weekly. Corey Erdman and Morgan Campbell here with you. We've been touching on a pair of heavyweight title fights this Saturday in Brooklyn. Deontay Wilder and Artur Szpilka in the main event in a fight that's going to be fun regardless of how it turns out. The co-feature also is a heavyweight title fight for the IBF heavyweight title. Now, you ask, how is that possible? It's because they took the IBF title, away from Tyson Fury almost immediately, because he decided he wasn't going to defend it against Glazkov in the next month, and have now put it on the line in a vacant capacity for Glazkov to fight Prince Charles Martin. You asked the question over the break, have there ever been two less qualified heavyweights fighting for a piece of the heavyweight title? You can make the argument no, which isn't an indictment of this fight. I actually like this fight. This is a good heavyweight fight.
It's a very good heavyweight fight.
But marketing this as a heavyweight title fight is questionable.
This is a good heavyweight fight for like ESPN Friday Night Fights.
Yeah.
Rest in peace to Friday Night Fights. But that's what this is. Doesn't make it a less entertaining fight. You just wonder why it's for these stakes. And it's also an example of us. It's an example of... it's one of the side effects of us getting what we asked for. Well, we don't want one person dominating the heavyweight division anymore. That's boring. But at the same time, the other thing we complain about is splintered championships. But you take this one person who's been dominating, you knock him off, championship splinters, and this is what we get. And then we say, we don't like these unknown fighters, relatively unknown fighters fighting for pieces of the championship. We like it when there's one champion. But when we get one champion, then we turn around and say, this is boring. There's only one champion. He's dominating everyone. So you kind of have to be careful what you ask for. Again, I don't mind this as a fight. And it's funny, too, that the IBF, because it's the only one among the major sanctioning organizations that's based in the United States, it kind of... We talk about privilege. The IBF gets the benefit of the doubt for being like the least corrupt. Well, we don't know what they're doing down there in Mexico with the WBC. Where's the WBA? Where's the WBA? Is it in Panama?
I want to. Yes, it is in Panama. Yeah. Well, they have their convention every year in Panama. So.
Yeah. So here in North America,
here in New Jersey.
Yeah, here in North America, we say no. The IBF is more trustworthy because it's the only one that's based in the U.S. We can't trust the Mexican political process or the Panamanian political process. Yet here we go, and this is the type of thing that. When the WBA or WBC does it, we make fun of them, right? Yep. Look at these small-time organizations. They're just making up the rules as they go along. Well, what is this?
Yeah, also because, people love main events.
Yes.
They love Kathy Duva and the people in that office as well. And because they're the people who brokered this,
yes,
who got the title shot for Glasgow, who pulled the trigger on that and leveraged the IBF, people don't have too much of a problem with it. And listen, I like the people at main events too, but if any other promoter did this and wrangled a title away from someone who just won the undisputed heavyweight championship, or the lineal heavyweight championship, excuse me, people might have a problem with it. But listen, I'm not gonna lie and say that sanctioning bodies don't create good things as well, because you touched on it. The fact that this title is on the line made this fight happen.
Yeah.
Would there be any reason for Charles Martin and Vyacheslav Glasgow to fight otherwise? No. They would never fight one another. We would still be in that holding pattern of everyone waiting for the payday now against either Wilder or against Fury. And Martin was clearly in that lane waiting for Wilder. But instead, he's going to take a really good fight in the interim, get himself a title, and then both of them will make more money if he beats Glasgow, and we'll have a title unification fight.
Well, right, and it's a risk. It's more than a bit of a risk. And again, it's also the type of fight that when we talk about the boxing's partisan division, it's the type of fight that the fans on the HBO side of the divide tell us that the Showtime Heyman side of the divide never makes. Yet here it is, not different from the Jacobs Quillen fight. Here it is, two guys with a lot at stake, who could be just as well served playing it safer. Instead, they're both taking a risk for the reward.
Yeah.
So I like the fight. Is it a title fight under normal circumstances? No. But other than that, there's still not a whole lot to complain about.
Yeah, and again, you reference the sort of unofficial tournament that is sort of going on. And here you have two guys beneath the main event who could be challengers for Wilder next. We mentioned the possible title unification. And the great thing about the heavyweight division is that all of these fights can actually be made.
Yes.
With the exception of Luis Ortiz because he's on the Golden Boy side.
Right.
All of these other fights, for the most part, could be made. You could get David Haye against any of these guys. You can get Povetkin against any of these guys. Fury can leave. He doesn't really have an HBO contract. He can fight wherever he wants.
Right.
All these fights are actually possible. So whatever you think about the perceived skill level of these heavyweights, listen, you didn't want to watch Klitschko fight, so clearly you don't care about skill level.
No, listen.
Now we have some fun stuff happening, so you better enjoy it.
Boxing fans amaze me with their ability to complain about whatever it is they get, and to complain about getting exactly what they want. Oh, we want fights at a higher skill level. Go watch Klitschko. He's very technical. Oh, Klitschko's boring. Klitschko's so boring. Okay, well, what do you want? Do you want the flabby? Do you want Ernie Shaver's Tex Cobb all over again? Because we can do that too. Really exciting fights, but then you say, oh man, these heavyweights are not skilled anymore. And again, with heavyweight boxers, you kind of get one or the other.
They either get Areola Travis Kaufman, or you're going to get Klitschko and Povetkin.
You get a big guy that uses his reach and uses his tactics to neutralize people. But yeah, like worst case scenario, a guy like Martin or Glasgow wins the IBF title, and instead of fighting these other guys, says, no, I'm the champion. All these guys got to come to me. And then they fight all the flabby, undercooked heavyweights. But again, because they're all under the pretty much the same managerial umbrella, the chances of them doing that are much slimmer than they otherwise would have been.
All right. On the other side of the break, we might go ahead and add some heavyweight classics to the YouTube playlist.
You might. I'm touching on previous themes in my
All right.
pick.
Well, stick around if you want to know which fights are added to the classics playlist. We'll be back in a second. Welcome back to Fight Network Boxing Weekly. Corey Erdman and Morgan Campbell here with you. It is time to add to our YouTube Classics playlist. And Morgan, you referenced that you're going to touch on some previous themes from earlier in the broadcast.
Remember when the UFC, again, talking about UFC and ethnocentric marketing, and they had this deal with Reebok, and they made these T-shirts to honor Conor McGregor, and it had a map of Ireland on it, except the map of Ireland didn't include Northern Ireland. So then people who live over there are like, hey, what the hell? Put Northern Ireland on the map. It's an island. Put it on the map. You can't just cut it out.
Or that time he was holding the Ivory Coast flag.
Yeah, right. I think he beat out Yaya Toure for Ivory Coast Athlete of the Year. Anyway, unlike the UFC and Reebok, I'm going to show some love to Northern Ireland this week. My YouTube classic is from 1985, September of 1985. Barry McGuigan defending his WBA featherweight title against Bernard Taylor. So it's the first fight because they had the common opponent. They had both fought Eusebio Pedrosa from Panama. Pedrosa is incredible. He was a champion, but he would just go on the road everywhere and fight. Taylor drew with Pedrosa. McGuigan beat Pedrosa, so they wind up fighting for that title. Exciting fight while it lasts.
In honor of Polish heavyweights, yes. I'm going to throw an Andrew Golota fight in here.
Wow.
One of our favorites for reasons outside of the ring as well. Now, it's a pretty fun fight as well, and you get to see how good Golota could have been if he could have kept his head straight. He doesn't keep his head straight in this fight either, but you get some classic corner work from Emmanuel Stewart. So I am going to add Andrew Golota versus Donnell Nicholson. It is the fight before Golota went on to fight Riddick Bowe, and we got glimpses of why Golota was a lunatic, or that he was going to become a lunatic, and you get arguably the best Emmanuel Stewart corner rant ever. So check this fight out. It is fantastic.
Perfect.
That's all the time we have for today's program. Enjoy the fights, guys, and we'll see you next week.